Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, everybody is talking about the art of the deal. President Trump getting it done, not just in America, but now with Greenland. You knew things were going to break. You knew when he started saying, okay, maybe we'll put tariffs, and then NATO sounded frustrated. They sound concerned, but they also didn't want to anger President Trump. And nobody could have put pressure on the European countries to make a difference and to get a result that is good for America. The reports tonight that it's basically that Denmark is going to give sovereignty to the United States, to a decent area there in Greenland, so the U.S. can expand its military base there. It can have full control of decisions, which is an important thing versus a lease type opportunity. And that would give the U.S. full control to be able to block Russia, China, a whole bunch more for America's national security. This is a very, very big deal. And President Trump putting down the hammer and then saying, well, maybe I don't need to use the hammer after all. It was a very effective tactic. And one thing is for sure, America is on the world stage. America first is on the world stage. World security is also on the world stage. And all I thought about today with what a dramatic last 24 hours that we have had. We talked about this last night. Everybody was like, okay, where's it going? He said, President Trump will see where it goes. But all I could think about today was, can you imagine if it was President Joe Biden right now in the White House? Nothing would get done. Can you imagine if it was President Kamala Harris and Vice President Tim Walz? It would be like Abbott and Costello there. This never would have gotten done. It is the force, and it's also the conviction of President Trump that they know he means what he says, and he was ready to carry through with it. But he also today was an interesting tactic because he put the hammer down. You could tell they were like, oh boy, President Trump is coming. The plane got rerouted, as you know, last night. They had electrical issues. They got right back on. And in perfect Trump style, he came back the victor and came back with very, very clear messages for NATO saying, you know what, guys, you guys need to step up. And this is not just a good thing for America. This is a good thing for the world. That was the key that he was saying today. He was looking at Europe straight in the eye and saying, it's time for Europe and America to really wake up. Look at what's happening with your borders. Look at what's happening with illegal immigration that's destroying a lot of countries like the UK, like if you go to the city like London and a lot of other places, Germany, France, the list goes on and on. We need to protect ourselves, and we need to protect ourselves against Putin. We need to protect ourselves against China. And if you look at the map, I never really thought much about Greenland. It was on my bucket list of places to go visit. It still is. I'd like to go there now even more so because there's going to be a bigger U.S. base. You know how much I love the military. But also, I hadn't really thought about it. But then when you start looking at it on the map, and you look at the history, that back at the time of the Alaska purchase, then Secretary of State Seward was essentially trying to get Greenland also. He was trying to get a double package deal and get Alaska and also get Greenland because he noticed how close it is to Russia, how pivotal it is also to the United States, how key that Russia and other adversaries will kind of have to essentially fly over part of Greenland. And if you have very strong military capabilities there for detection and also to go on the offense if needed, it's certainly a lot better to be doing that from Greenland than from the United States. So it's interesting. If you look at the history, it makes all the sense in the world. And only President Donald Trump could have pulled this off. There is no doubt in my mind that the master negotiator stepped up once again. And I think the big message tonight, guys, here on the Rita Cosby Show, I'm thinking about all the naysayers. Never doubt President Trump. There were a slew of naysayers in just the last 24, 48 hours, even months since he brought up Greenland. People were like, what is he talking about Greenland? And it went from this obscure topic thrown out at the White House to now President Trump getting sovereignty of a swath of Greenland. And he says it is eternal for the United States. It's not like a lease deal where they would have control and could revoke the lease. So it sounds to me like it's a win for America, clearly. It's a win for Europe. It's a win for the free world. And here is President Trump early in the day in Davos sending a message. This is before the deal was done. But this is what he had to say to the incredible crowd of all world leaders and movers and shakers. And he sent a signal, we're not going in. We're not going in like the scene out of Braveheart where they're going to take over the land. We're not going in. We're here for peace, but we're also here with a very serious message, help us or else. And he also said this, and right away the market soared when he said, we are not planning to use force. Take a listen.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now after I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so today. We have a budget of $1.5 trillion.
So he said, we're not going to take it by force. And yeah, you can bet there was like this enormous sigh of relief in the room, like, whew, okay, we're okay, because this guy means business. We saw what he did with Iran and other things. And then I love this description, as only President Trump can describe what Greenland looks like.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
That is a great line. First of all, the piece of ice. We just want a piece of ice. That's all I'm asking for. Can you pass the drink? We just want a piece of ice. And then he said, if you help us, we'll remember, we'll be grateful. But if you don't, duck. And I think that's a pretty strong message too. Nice, but clear. And then there he is in true Trump form, talking about America first, but also telling the world, you better step up, because what's going on, especially with Russia, Ukraine, all those things, they're in your backyard. So here he is with a room full of NATO leaders, and he calls them out.
I made that very clear.
Why are you disrespecting the president?
We have a great relationship with NATO, but NATO has to step up.
We have a great relationship with NATO, but NATO needs to step up. The message that only President Trump, with clarity, conviction, and results, can do. And let's not forget NATO. Most NATO countries were spending 2%, some of them less, on their defense prior to President Trump. And that seemed to be okay with Joe Biden, who is spending so much U.S. money without putting any pressure on the other nations, especially when it came to Russia, Ukraine. I'm all for supporting Ukraine. You guys know that. I'm half Polish. So I understand the stakes all too well. But Joe Biden was a wimp in every sense of the word. And President Trump said, I'm going to help them, but I'm also expecting all of you to step up too. And so now many of them are spending close to 5% of their GDP on defense. That's a great sign, and that is great news. And again, force of nature, President Donald Trump. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Pete in Staten Island on line 4. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Rita, this is the art of the deal. Donald Trump just trumped everybody. I mean, he goes in there. He's the greatest negotiator there is. I seen him when I worked in construction with all the jobs and everything. Everything gets done to perfection and quality and in less time than anybody could ever do. The only thing Donald Trump ever did in his life that he didn't achieve was dating Carly Simon, which I did. But you know what? She was a hard nut. I think she would have drove him crazy because he is as liberal as can be, So things work out in life. That's what it is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Pete, you're right. Nobody could have pulled this off other than President Trump. Great points, my friend. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn, line 5. Go ahead, Robert, your thoughts.
Well, congratulations to President Trump. As he pointed out, the security, the needs for the security of the United States and our allies, especially, the Arctic area, to secure the area. Also, we talked about, at the Davos speech, he spoke about the Golden Dome, the need to protect our security from, you never know what type of rogue actor could launch a missile at the United States. So, the President Trump, he takes his, responsibility, constitutional responsibility to uphold defend the country very seriously. And like you say, he's the greatest art of the deal person ever. So,
and you know what's amazing? You know what was also incredible today, Robert? You look, all those people that were there, and all of them, lots of them, most of them were all real big who's who. To be in that room, you had to either be a world leader or Secretary of State of some country, and a clear world mover and shaker. Some big CEOs too. I mean, he doesn't mind who's in there. It doesn't matter. Every single one of them, you could tell there was this reception that took place later, and it was with world leaders and executives. And they were all like standing like school kids waiting in line to have a chance to talk to President Trump for 2 or 3 minutes. It didn't matter if he was scolding them publicly. They, were inattentive. They were waiting. They wanted the moment. They knew just to be able to say something to him, whatever their thoughts were. That's a pretty strong statement, Robert, I think. And it seems like the voices that were anti-Trump, and there were a few. You had Al Gore there, who apparently privately, after Lutnick got off the stage, the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, apparently Al Gore went over to him and said boo to his face. And Lutnick said that's a badge of honor to be booed by Al Gore over there in Davos. So he didn't seem to care. He seemed to relish the moment. But there were very few objectors, Robert. And if they were few and far between.
Well, President Trump, he also dropped at the Davos speech that it seems like it's in the work, the rigged election, that the DOJ is going to be prosecuting some of these people. I hope so. He also spoke about this I'm not so happy about. He spoke about $1.5 trillion for the military budget. Currently, we're at $1 trillion. He wants to increase to $1.5 trillion. And the thing is like this. I mean, we're already probably spending more than China and Russia combined already.
What's your problem? What's your problem with raising the money?
Well, my problem is like this. You're going to cut health care, and the Republicans don't do school vouchers. They should be giving, Republicans committed for school choice, school vouchers. So you don't have the money for health care, and they're not giving really enough to pay for people to pay their tuition in, yeshivas or Catholic schools. But he wants to increase the military industrial complex to go from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. So he can't afford health care for people. He can't, and then they want to know why.
And Robert, hold on, Robert. No. Hold on, Robert. You went on your long soliloquy. Hold on one second. All right. So I heard what you had to say. And yeah, I'm all for making sure that people get appropriate health care. Obviously, that is fundamental. I agree with you on that. The issue, though, is when you got a lot of bad actors like Vladimir Putin and some others, you have to admit, and President Trump has said this publicly, that, he walked into a gutted military because there were a lot of people that were DEI hires that weren't doing anything. They were not up to speed in terms of technology, in terms of capabilities. They felt they were, recklessly behind by the previous president. And so he did have a lot of catching up to do. And when you look at what's going on in the world right now, you have to admit national security, all of that is important. But I agree, there's got to be a balance. You got to figure out how to do the funding. And it doesn't mean in some cases, it's an either or, but sometimes it's not necessarily an either or. Maybe he needs to find money for elsewhere to make sure that both of those things get appropriately taken care of, to your point. And that would be the perfect scenario. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue, everybody, after the break here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And Trump takes over Davos. Let's go to your calls, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey.
Oh, hi, Rita. Tonight when you were speaking about Donald Trump and all the wonderful things that he's doing all over the country, the song came to my mind. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Hey, wait, Sandra, hold on. I think we have that.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world.
Here we go, everybody. Sandra?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
I'm not sure what version that was, but
I love it. And
Sandra, I remember that song. I love that song too. You're right. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He's got the whole world in his hands, Rita. And you know what, Rita? I listen to everybody every day share their feelings. Why doesn't he concentrate on what they're doing here? But he can't, because we have to fix the whole world, not just this part of the world.
Absolutely. And you know why? Because the whole world is in his hands. But you know what, Sandra? It's actually a perfect analogy, because a safe America helps a safe world. And the fact that he cares about NATO, he cares about what's going on with Russia, bravo.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment, everybody, coming from Lehigh Township, Pennsylvania, where 2 police officers in Northampton County are being hailed as heroes after saving an elderly woman from a pond in freezing water. They arrived to find the woman waving her arms in the air, stuck waist deep in the pond. The officer said if it was about 20 minutes later, she likely would have passed out from severe hypothermia. The officer said, I ended up carrying her into a local house, a neighbor's house, with a blanket that I found, and we wrapped her up near a heater. The woman told officers she was cleaning her pond pump when she accidentally fell in. Scary, because think about how frigid it was. Luckily, she was wearing a medical pendant, which allowed her to call for immediate help. That is absolutely critical. And officers credit that device with saving her life and allowing them to make a very quick response. And bravo, of course, to our great men and women in blue. Well, Sandra just brought up a great song. Let's play it again because it does really epitomize President Trump. Here it is. And Sandra, I know you're still listening, so you can sing along, and everybody else too. And you got to love that. I remember that as a kid. You know, how many times were we sitting there clapping? Well, I think the members of NATO were doing it today when they saw President Trump, because he clearly is leading the world stage like nobody else can, and no recent president has, other than Trump, won. And yet, if you listen to the left, you listen to Gavin Newsom, I mean, this is shocking. There is nothing that Trump could do. I've said this before, and this is what makes, I think, many on the Democratic side really, really look just insane, really ridiculous, because everybody does good things and bad things. I don't care how perfect you are. I don't care how, much a human you are or less a human you are. Everybody makes mistakes. And you also should be praising. If the president of the United States does something well, you should praise him. If the president does something poor, I understand a criticism. I think that that's fair game. But to criticize every single thing President Trump does, it's like he could cure cancer, and they would say that's not a nice thing to do to the pharmaceutical company. I mean, this is just crazy. So here is Gavin Newsom, who seems to be preparing himself for a presidential run. And this is what he had to say about President Trump and the issue of Greenland. Take a listen.
Do you have a message for Europeans who are concerned about the messages from the White House around Greenland this week?
Yeah, it's time to buck up. It's time to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States, the supine Congress playing both sides, say one thing on a text or a tweet and another publicly. It's time to have principles. It's time to stand tall and strong.
Does that mean responding with tariffs?
It's time to stand united. You make that determination. I don't make that determination.
But when you say standing tall, what do you mean?
I can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders. I mean, handing out crowns and this is pathetic. Nobel Prizes, they are being given away. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I hope people understand how pathetic they look on the world stage. I mean, at least from an American perspective, it's embarrassing.
So what should Europe be doing?
You should decide, the Europeans should decide for themselves what to do. But one thing they can't do is what they've been doing. And they've been playing. This guy is playing folks for fools. And it's embarrassing.
Europeans think this is diplomacy and this will ultimately
this is
work.
Diplomacy with Donald Trump? He's a T-Rex. You mate with him or he devours you. One or the other.
And Europe's being devoured?
People need to stand, but no, the Europeans could be if they continue down this path and process. They need to stand tall, stand firm, stand united.
There are a couple good lines in there, and I will give Gavin Newsom credit. The T-Rex thing is a great one. The knee pads and the brownies, that's a new one. There were some definitely clever lines there. But what is he saying? Is he saying that, what's wrong with you, Europeans? We, America, should be last. You guys should be leading the world. Is that what he's saying? I thought last I heard Gavin Newsom was living in America. Last I heard, he's the governor of California. And last I heard, he seems to be eyeing a run for the presidency. Wouldn't you think he would put America first? Wouldn't that be refreshing to have a leader? I expect every leader out there to be fighting for their country. And he seems to be chastising Europe for helping America. That's an incredible statement. And mocking Trump for pushing for American values and American national security in this case, and world security. Like, you guys shouldn't be bending to this guy, even if he did something great. Like I said, this guy, Gavin Newsom, and many other Democrats are in such la-la land, they will not give him credit. Well, equally with some good lines, here is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who had a response to Gavin Newsom.
I think it's very, very ironic that, Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and the Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that.
I don't think they will. And also the Sparkle Beach Ken was a pretty good line. We can all kind of imagine that with Gavin and his slicked back hair and all that stuff. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Dom in Minnesota. Go ahead, Dom. On line 4. Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you now. Sorry about that, Dom. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. The United States has been trying to acquire Greenland from Denmark since about the 19th century, if I'm not wrong. Trump comes along and threatens to take over Greenland by force, if necessary. And then he has a private meeting with the NATO chief and probably said, guy, the Vikings can't help you with this one. So I left my gun at home, but here's some cannoli. Do we have a deal?
Dom, you know what? I think we need you in the negotiations. I think that, and by the way, whenever you bring up a cannoli, I would cave very quickly because that's one of my favorites. So I think.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, that's why, especially a really good cannoli. Yeah, sure. Here you go. You got Greenland. Take it. For 2 cannolis, we'll take 2 Greenlands.
And then the best part, is Gavin Newsom the beatdown by the Treasury Secretary was epic. So he'll probably go back to California and become the spokesperson for hair gel.
By the way, I would not be surprised. I mean, it's incredible, Dom, that he won't even, if you listen to what he's saying, that's something that you would expect somebody who's not pro-America to be saying. That's what maybe you'd expect Dmitry Peskov, who works for Vladimir Putin, to be saying. I mean, to me, it's a very America last philosophy, and almost like we should be cowering to the world. And it reminds me of worse than Joe Biden. It's almost like he resents America being first. Like, how dare we be? And you heard a little bit of that in Joe Biden towards the end of his presidency. It was almost like an angry at, like, who do we think we are, bullying the world? We should be cowering and crying in a corner and not helping because we need to just cry in a corner almost. And that's almost the same attitude that I'm hearing from Newsom. And to me, it's very troubling. And it's not a Republican Democrat message. It's a message of, you should be protecting your country. You should be thinking what's best for your country. And maybe he should say, I don't really like the delivery of this, but I applaud anyone who's putting America first or looking at about American national security. He can't even do the back half. He just has to slam them. It's really frightening, Dom,
Yeah, that's my problem with this guy because, you have politics and within the country you can bash on each other. That's fine. But to go to a foreign country and bash your own country, just like Rush Limbaugh said, politics is showbiz for the ugly. Gavin Newsom might be handsome. He's very ugly on the inside.
Yeah, and I think, it also just shows this is going to be such an unbelievably nasty race for the presidency. And no matter what, and they haven't, and it's so troubling. And we're going to talk later on in the next hour, Dom, too, also about all the stuff that's been going on with ICE. Because if you look, the attacks on ICE up skyrocketing exponentially, the attacks even on that church recently, just the vitriol against law enforcement, the vitriol against Trump, they're willing to throw everybody under the bus. A number of Democrats are. And it doesn't matter the price. It doesn't matter, if people are getting assaulted and attacked, cars rammed into them. It doesn't matter. To me, that's a very scary situation that it's a desperate people do desperate things. And I don't see them backing off. I just see them doubling, tripling down. And for Newsom's, for all his crazy comments, he is one of the leading candidates clearly on the Democratic side. I mean, he will definitely, I believe, be up there when it comes to presidential candidates, and he's very articulate. But if you listen to what he says, it's trouble.
Yeah, and I think I would like him to run because Trump is going to have ball with him. He's going to tear him apart. And
but remember, it's not going to be Trump. It's not going to be Trump next time. I mean, Trump,
I know, but
Trump will be out there for sure making comments, but it'll be maybe a J.D. Vance or a Marco Rubio or others.
No, the Trump will be the Republicans, Barack Obama behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, and by the way, I don't even, do you ever see Trump being behind the scenes though?
No, that's not right. But, I have a friend in Denmark. He said, hey, come on over. I'll take you to Greenland. I might take him up on it.
Oh, you should. And by the way, then, Dom, you could call us. You could give, and many of you guys may know, my father's Polish, my mother's Danish.
Have you been to Greenland?
Yeah, well, I have not been to Greenland. It's on my bucket list.
Go.
That, by the way, that and also Iceland. Those two places are definitely on my bucket list. And now after talking about Greenland extensively, I'm ready to go. Now I have a full knowledge about Nuuk, the capital, and everything else. But if you go, Dom, I think you should take him up on it. I think you should go, and I hope to go too at some point.
I will. I might call you from there too.
Oh, Dom, you got to promise us. If you do it, you better. You'll be our Nuuk Greenland correspondent, our official correspondent.
All right.
Dom, thank you very much. Always great to hear from you. Have a great, great night. Let's go to Dalton in New Jersey on line 3. Go ahead, Dalton.
Hi, Rita. Great show as always. I love listening to you.
Thank
you. I love the way you cheerlead President Trump on. Let's face it, if he picked his nose on stage and ate it, you would jump up and down and shout how brilliant he is.
Actually, Dalton, hang on, Dalton, because obviously you're drinking something. But let me just ask you that, first of all, I wouldn't. I would call that disgusting. And I obviously, think that you're coming from a position. Explain to me how helping America is a bad thing. Let's try to keep it at the civil level. So explain to me why that's a bad thing, that he wants to put America first. And here is Gavin Newsom cheering on adversaries of Trump, saying, you guys shouldn't be such a sucker to this guy. How is that in America's interest?
Do you know what the definition of a buffoon is?
I know what the definition of someone who's not answering the question is, and that's you.
Trump embarrasses us to no end, and morons like you jump up and down and go,
Dalton, hang on a second. First of all, I'm not calling you a name, and I'll give you a pass on that one. I'll give you, but I won on the next one. So here it is. My question is, there are issues. You can't tell me that Biden was a master in foreign policy. Will you answer that question?
How is pissing off all our closest allies America first?
How is not getting them all to step up and give 5% of their GDP now to the military? Dalton, you obviously don't want to answer the question, and I suggest you cut off the booze. And by the way, that will be a very good thing for you, not just for this call, but for later in life. And good luck. Let's go to Susan in Corning, New York. After that, Susan, I know you're sober. Go ahead.
Well, I'm actually kind of celebrating because of all the things, and I heard this on this station earlier today. President Trump was so measured today, as moving on to Great Britain and how he called them out on how they wasted and squandered money on the Green New scam.
But not according to Dalton, if that's his real name, who just called in. He thinks that America should cry in the corner and cower, and that Trump leading the way on the world stage is a bad thing. That's mean. And Dalton thinks that's a meanie. That's a meanie, Dalton. Go ahead, Susan.
No, but what he was saying that Great Britain put all this money into the windmills, which they bought from China, and none of them work. And now Great Britain has like 30% of the power that they used to have, and it's so expensive they cannot even, have their industries and their people have power, and they're broke. And he just pointed it out in such a matter-of-factly way, so that people can understand that there are consequences for following these failed policies and giving money to China. China doesn't have windmills. They don't. They just export them. They have coal. So this would, I just wish that President Trump was so measured. He was
not according to Dalton the drinker, not according to him.
Well, it's okay to have a cocktail or two, but that.
By the way, after listening to Dalton, I think we need to wheel in a keg. Forget a drink or two. I think we need to wheel in a keg. Susan, thank you. You're terrific, though. At least you gave us a dose of reality. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up on the Rita Cosby Show, we'll talk about some of the crazy comments also coming from Zoran Mondani, and also another incident where an ICE agent, actually this time it was a CBP, it was a Customs and Border Protection agent, had to open fire on someone who was trying to run him down. This one happened in California. And they're saying, oh, why was he opening fire on that nice, sweet person? Well, the person was clearly trying to run away, still was running away even after he tried to ram the vehicle. And this nice, sweet person, it sounds like, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Remember the Maryland dad who Chris Van Hollen wanted to have a great margarita with down there in El Salvador? That really sweet, wonderful man. Well, in this particular case, it's also a guy from El Salvador. And it's a guy who has ties to human smuggling, just like they say Obrego does, and also had a couple prior arrests. So does that sound like a nice person? Does that sound like your wonderful neighbor who people like Jacob Fry and Tim Walz say we need to protect? We need to love our neighbors. People like that, human smugglers. It's really hit a new low. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Hey, good evening, Rita. That guy Dalton's really got my feathers ruffled.
Yours too. Yours too.
He's exactly the perfect example of what part of the problem this country is, because half this country's been so brainwashed somehow, by this educational system that they're all a bunch of globalist leftists. All right, let's see. What allies are we worried about pissing off? The ones that are allowing their own countries and cultures to be destroyed by open border policies and flooding their countries with Middle Eastern immigrants? Are those the ones we're worried about pissing off?
Yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. And Dalton was like, oh, Trump is a bully. How dare he care about America? How dare he care about American national security? My name is Dalton. I drink Kool-Aid. We'll be back.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to The Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.